Hi. Hi, good afternoon. This is Eric again. I'm having trouble getting the with my videos. I have it upright, and I don't know how it's going to show up on your screen. I know I did it horizontally the last time, and when I did it horizontally, it was vertically on the screen. Except if you had an Android phone, then you could watch it, So I'm going to do it horizontal, so it should come out the same way on your computer, but it might be difficult to see. Anyways, yesterday we talked about the decline in native health, all across, especially in Saddle Lake, but all across North America, and that this decline has been, I believe, caused by the loss of native nutrition. And we started to go into the to help us understand how native nutrition affects the body. Is to understand, we need to go into the biological organism of the body. What you start off with is atoms getting together and they form molecules, and then these molecules form the smallest living unit in your body, which is the human cell. And they form the tissue and the organs and all the systems throughout your body, your urinary system, nervous system, skeletal system, reproductive, cardiovascular, digestive, muscular system. All these systems are dependent on the health of the human cell. Okay? And these cells, they die from one of three ways: trauma, you cut it, you burn it; poison; and starvation. We'll cover poison first. Trauma is pretty self-explanatory. Poison is anything the cell can't use. Is actually a biotax, because the cell has to use nutrients to get it out of your body. And what you find is that if the cell starts running out of fuel, the body's excretion mechanisms are overloaded, and these toxins get deposited in the matrix of the tissue. As you see here, they start getting deposited in the tissue itself. And over time, this buildup of toxins in the body start destroying the cells around your body, and this can lead to a whole range of illness. And in this phase of damage, illnesses are found which are characterized by the fact that the toxins themselves have become a component of connective tissue and a matrix, and that both the structural elements and their functions have changed. The increasingly severe symptoms typical of this phase indicate damage to the organ cells. Okay? So the body will do everything if it has the fuel, but if the cells don't have the nutrients, they can't take the toxins out. But the other thing that's happening in our environment is that our bodies are getting overwhelmed with toxins that we never had before. I mean, during the time of our ancestors, it wasn't hard, mainly because the air was sweet, the water was pure, all the animals were there was no toxins in them. You didn't have to worry about mercury, you didn't have to worry about lead, you didn't have to worry about all the other stuff that some of our animals are now consuming. You didn't have to worry about all the antibiotics that's in our beef, all the steroids that's in our beef, all the fertilizer and pesticides that's in our food. None of that. All the food was the way Creator wanted it. You take a look at this is baby food. Does this scare you? These are the lists of ingredients found in Similac baby formula. 83% sugar and oil. Is this okay? Take a look at that. Back in about 60 years ago when they first came out, these were pretty healthy. They didn't have as much additives, preservatives, binding agents, in this food. Certainly they didn't have corn syrup. Corn syrup wasn't around until the mid-80s. Soya isolate, all these oils, these new oils, they weren't around. But now they're even in our baby food. And this is nowhere near healthy. You can't say this is healthy. Okay. So one of the things is that we're getting a lot of nowadays. A lot of kids are growing up on crap, carbonated drinks, refined sugars, artificial food, and processed food. And artificial food, a lot of times, is just an artifact, But not only that, not only are you getting the toxins from inside your body, but you're also getting them from the outside. For instance, these are, a list of ingredients to avoid. 12 toxic carcinogenic compounds found in beauty and skincare products. Benzoyl peroxide used in acne products. I'll just read a couple of them. The MSDS states possible tumor promoter, may act as a mutagen, produces DNA damage in human and other animals' cells. Also toxic by inhalation, eye and skin and respiratory irritants. I won't go through all of them, but I'll just go through a couple of them. Sodium lead sulfate, SLL, SLES, used in car wash, garage floor cleaners, engine degreasers, and 90% are personal care products that foam, your shaving lotion, all that. Eye damage, depression, labored breathing, diarrhea, skin irritation, death. You know how you have the smoking patch, you want to quit nicotine patch? You actually absorb this stuff. Your skin is the biggest organ, and it's really a way that you can absorb lots of things into your skin. Okay, parabens, and you find a lot of these in almost all skincare products. Scientific research has shown that most breast cancers develop in the outer quadrant of the breast. It just so happens that the area is closest to the lymph nodes exposed to antiperspirants. 99% of breast cancer tissue contain this everyday chemical. Parabens are chemicals that serve as preservatives in antiperspirant, cosmetic, and suntan lotion. Ancestors never used these antiperspirants, suntan lotions. The sun doesn't, my contention that sun doesn't cause cancer. Freebies, how many of these you use this? Freebies contains over 80 toxic chemicals. I wouldn't even have a container of this freebies in my car or in my house because it'll slowly leak and you breathe it. You wouldn't even want to get close to it. And you go shopping, you're going to be smelling it too. Fabric softener is the number one cause of indoor air pollution. Whenever you smell that laundry smell, you are inhaling toxic, volatile organic compounds. I never use that stuff. I use very little soap. There is no such thing as junk food. There is junk, and then there is food. So we looked at trauma, and you looked at poison, things that actually tax the body. And these toxins, you can absorb them from eating them or absorbing them through your skin. So the thing we're focusing on is that the path to optimal health is what do we need to keep out and what do we need to put in. This slide that we're going to be showing you right here is all about starvation. That the other way that the cells die is they starve. They run out of fuel. Poor nutrition equals chronic degeneration. Remember, the body produces 24 billion cells a day as part of its normal wear and repair. That's 1 billion cells an hour. Making cells is like baking a cake. No matter how good the recipe, you can't bake the cake without all the ingredients. And one of the things we know for sure is that when we look at anthropological literature, our history, and we look at our history, go back to our ancestors, we have a good recipe. We have a good DNA. But the thing is that you can't bake a cake without all the ingredients. Your cells are being replaced at the rate of 4 billion cells a day in about 4 months, almost 98% of you will be brand new. So when you're making all these new cells, are they getting all the ingredients? Without all the necessary ingredients, the cells in the cell's environment, the cells will degenerate rather than regenerate. More wear than repair equals degeneration or disease. So more wear than repair equals degeneration and disease. Less wear than repair equals regeneration and healing. Wear balanced by repair equals good health. So one of the things we need to understand is that the body will do everything if it has the fuel. It'll do a lot of work. It'll help you detox. One of the things that when we do workshops and we do experiential workshops where we actually put people on a meal replacement program and a supplement program, first thing they find out is that, wow, it starts to make a big difference in terms of so like we were saying, the cells require fuel. Nutrition is the fuel. It's the fuel for the human body. It's essential for growth, repair, and maintenance of the body and the mind, and thus for the spirit. Okay? The body will do growth, repair, and medicine. And if you think about the health of our ancestors, what did they do? They ate this great food that was here in this country, widespread in this country. They ate, in a sense, the medicine. The animals ate the medicine, we ate the animals. So the body will do all this stuff, growth, repair, and maintenance. It doesn't have the fuel, it can't do that. And you start seeing the breakdown. Okay? So the foundation of all the human functioning, physical, emotional, mental, cultural, and that's also for the spirit. Everything your body does requires fuel that our body has adapted to using for thousands of years. Okay? You are what you eat. Every 35 days your skin replaces itself. Your liver about a month. Your body makes these new cells from the food you eat. What you eat literally becomes you. You have a choice of what you're made of. About 80% of the food in the supermarket shelf today didn't exist 100 years ago. 80% of the foods that you see in supermarkets didn't exist 100 years ago. For kids, that 80% is normal. There's nothing wrong with it. And that's where you get the food. That's where you're supposed to get good health. Kids have never experienced an environment where there was nothing but real food. Okay? Now you take a look at this chart that I made. I called a grocery shopping roulette. Back in 1950, when I was growing up, you go into a grocery store, you would see 200 items, of which 180 items were good for you. Even the flour was much healthier back then than it is now. Why? Because at that time, most of the towns and most of the provinces had their own grain mills. So the processing of the grain wasn't by these super mills that eliminate all the nutrients from the flour. So this flour was real. If you made your own flour at home from the grains that you harvested, the organic grains, it's super healthy. Why? Because the grain will have 23 nutrients. But when they mill it with these super mills, they eliminate all of the nutrients. Why? Because it won't spoil. Even bacteria requires nutrients. So you have 200 items, of which 140 items were good for you. So if you pick 10 foods at random, your chance of picking a healthy diet is almost guaranteed. I think it's about 1 in 5 that you will always pick a healthy diet. Now, let's go to today. You go into a superstore and you'll have anywhere between 15 and 25,000 items, of which maybe 50 are good for you. Now, you pick 10 foods at random, your chances of picking really healthy food is almost zero. Zero. Now you start to understand how our food is subtly changing us. And our kids never saw 1950 grocery store, never experienced 1950 grocery store with no pesticides, no antibiotics, just really food directly from the farms that were a lot healthier then. And now you have foods that are very different. So the cell really itself is immortal. It's merely the fluid that it lives in, that it floats in, that degenerate. Renew this fluid at intervals and give the cells what they require for nutrition. And as far as we know, the pulsation of life will go on forever. So that's two things. The environment that the cell lives in your body, and the fuel that it gets. So if we can do those two things, keep that environment as non-toxic and as healthy as possible, and give the cells all they require in terms of fuel, you should live, the kind of health you desire, which is, optimal health. Okay? So two things: the environment and nutrition, the fuel. So how do we create that environment? If you take a look at it, this is the environment that was enjoyed by our ancestors. This is the environment that was enjoyed for our ancestors. This is our environment. Before I knew anything, this was the environment that I was living in. Before I knew anything about food. So in my journey towards regaining my health, how do I journey back to here? And initially it's a little bit difficult, but over time it gets a lot easier. So the question is, we create the environment that the cell lives in by the foods we eat. And if it's all processed, toxic, additives, preservatives, artifacts, chemicals, it's not a very healthy environment for our cells. And a lot of people say that, our diseases are genetics. No, it's the environment. We never had these diseases before. We also never had this environment. Now that we have this environment, we're triggering all these diseases. And for doctors, their easiest way to get you out of the office is to say, oh, it's genetic. And I call that lazy medicine. Lazy medicine is to say it's genetic, where because you don't want to do the work that's required to help them change the lifestyle. You say it's genetic because you blame the victim. You blame the victim for a lifestyle disease. Okay? Lifestyle diseases are triggered by the food environment that runs in a family. And one of the things is, before I knew this, some of my kids, I raised them in this environment. Okay? After I learned this stuff, my daughter, I started to raise her in that food. When she was born, we decided not to give her three things. We decided not to give her milk, flour, and sugar. Milk, flour, and sugar. And guess what? She ate all kinds of food. She loves tripe, liver, kidney, broccoli, spinach. I mean, she just loved that food. But if you start off with your kids with this, pablum, Similac, milk, what do they crave? Pop. They crave this stuff. And what it is really is corn, flour, and sugar. Corn, flour, and sugar, those three products with different coloring agents, different packaging, but pretty much the same junk food. Okay? So you have these lifestyle diseases that are triggered by the food environment. Lifestyle diseases require various cognitive, that means, learning, training, attitudinal change, and behavioral and nutritional therapies. Nutritional therapies because if you've done a lot of damage and you're missing a whole range of different nutrients, you need to have some kind of aggressive program to get them. Because if you don't, it's hard to move from here to there. But one of the things is that if you give the body what it needs, It makes it easier to make this change from unhealthy diet to a healthy diet. Okay? So you need these behavioral nutritional therapies to develop the capacity for continued self-care, because it's all about what do I need to know in this food environment today to be able to give the best care to myself. And you got to understand that for doctors, the time required will be a lot longer than handing out a drug. I mean, you come in with the symptoms, here's a drug. And that's what medicine is all about. That's what training in university is all about for doctors. So if you take a look at it, diseases originate inside the cell. The most common cause of disease is lack of biological fuel in the cell's power plant, lack of bioenergy carriers, vitamins, minerals, trace elements in the power plant of the cell, the mitochondria. Okay? So lack of biological fuel in today's diseases is the primary cause. Okay? The second most common cause of disease is reprogramming of the cell control system. Aggressive diseases such as viral infections and cancers can spread the reprogram of metabolic control system within the cell's nucleus. You take a look at that. Infectious diseases, but we hardly hear about them anymore, except other than virus infections and cancer. Okay? So the thing is, the fuel for the cell. Okay? Let's say you're deficient in vitamins, amino acids, and minerals. What are the symptoms? And you have a whole range of different vitamins, or what they call antioxidants. What are the symptoms? Frequent colds, respiratory illness, kidney stones, acne, dry skin, night blindness, eye infections, poor nails, dull hair, insomnia, fatigue, mental confusion, depression, apathy, anxiety, unable to concentrate, tolerate pain, sensitivity to noise, low blood pressure, heart palpitation, cracked lips, dizziness, hair loss, brain and nervous system changes, mental sluggishness, fear, suspicion, irritability, excessive gas, sleep disturbance, adrenal exhaustion, recurrent respiratory illness, nausea, water retention, PMS symptoms, poor digestion, apathy, withdrawal, poor memory, skin disorders, constipation, diarrhea, loss of appetite, sore gums, slow wound healing, frequent infection, hypothyroidism, rickets, restlessness, liver damage, bleeding disorders, and cravings. Okay? And really it's your body telling you, I need something. But we usually reach for something that gives us a quick energy, which is sugar products or flour products, which raise our blood sugar levels very quickly. Okay, amino acids that you get from a live food, and these affect behavior, moods, emotion, and memory. Can also cause anxiety, depression, short attention span, hostile and aggressive behavior, poor memory, drug and alcohol cravings, fatigue, muscular weakness, insomnia, easily distracted, irritable, sudden anger, and cravings. Minerals. Again, it's your body saying, I need something. Insomnia, anxiety, nervousness, tenseness, irritability, diabetes, hypoglycemia, heart disease, periodontal disease, osteoporosis, anemia, weakness, unable to concentrate, poor memory, depression, personality changes, rapid heartbeat, hyperactivity, muscle aches, delirium tremors, impaired glucose intolerance, inner ear balance, constipation, edema, headache, heart aneurysm, joint pain, low blood pressure, hot weather weakness, cold extremities, poor peripheral vision, poor taste and smell, poor wound healing, poor appetite, prostate problems, acne, lethargic, and cravings. Okay? So you think about this. If you take a look at not all of these, some of the white stuff, this is all mental stuff. All about our brains. All about our brains. Our brain operates on fuel. Our brain operates on fuel. You can raise the IQ of kids anywhere from 20 to 30%, putting them on a supplement program. We were never stupid. But when our brain starts running short of fuel, it's like thinking through molasses. It gets harder. Frustration goes up. But not only that, you have all of these different behaviors. So when you have these symptoms, what we've been trained is You have these symptoms, go see a doctor, you get a drug. You have these confusion, depression, go see a therapist. He'll try and talk you out of physical damage, nutritional damage that's causing these symptoms. One of the things you really need to look in terms of all of these particular symptoms is correcting the nutritional balance as quickly as possible. And the things is, the symptoms will go away very quickly. ADHD, schizophrenia, Parkinson's, you can help people. Or you can give them a drug. Okay. Now, if you look at the evolution of diseases, chronic degeneration now is number one cause of global death. In 1900s, the leading cause of premature deaths were infectious diseases, diphtheria, influenza, tuberculosis, pneumonia. Today, according to the leading cause of premature deaths are degenerative disease, heart disease, cancer, stroke, diabetes. But if you look at these diseases in 1900s, these things respond well to drugs. And as a result of the success of our efforts in terms of dealing with these infectious diseases with drugs, we developed a whole drug industry, but also a mentality that all we have to do is take a pill to fix something. So you have heart disease, cancer, stroke, diabetes, chronic degenerative disease, and we're still thinking drugs. Look at all the research money that's being spent on diabetes to try and find a magic pill, rather than saying, okay, what's the cause? Can we help people eliminate the cause? And in 2000, but now it's 2017, 16 million people died from, 7.5 million died from coronary heart disease, 7.1 million died from cancer, 5.5 from stroke, Over 6 million people suffer from high blood pressure. 151 million suffer from diabetes. But it's accelerating. Okay? How you take a look at all these people that are in the drug business and you say, if people stop getting cancer, we stop making profits. So we need to make sure everybody focuses on the cure, not the cause. The cure, not the cause. And that fits in a lot of ways with a lot of us, which is instant gratification, And the thing is that for a lot of us, we think it's so hard to change, but it isn't. It isn't. If you believe the pharmaceutical companies are on your side, remember this: you're staying sick at what's keep them in business. What did Chief Long Lodge say in 1884? 1884. He was predicting this. Medical science has made such tremendous progress that there is hardly a healthy human left. Chief Long Lodge, 1884, said, I want no government medicine. What I want is medicine that walks. He wanted to address the cause, not the symptom. And he was almost telling us, listen, you take government medicine, pretty soon it's going to take over. Okay? So this is a new childhood in America. 1 in 3 is overweight. 1 in 6 learning disability. 1 in 9 has asthma. 1 in 10 has ADHD. 1 in 12 has food allergies. 1 in 20 seizures. 1 in 54 males has autism. 1 in 88 has autism. 50%, half of all the children have chronic illnesses or are overweight. This is the new normal. Are you concerned yet? If you're not, then you're really not paying attention. And it's just scary because these kids really don't deserve this stuff. Kids are so amazing, so wonderful. Okay? Creating these healthy environments. A child's health and well-being is interrelated to the health of the family, community, and the environment. So it's not just the food, it's a whole range of other things. Obesity is just not a matter of personal responsibility, Kids don't control their environment. Kids don't control their environment at home, at school, at the community level. Kids and parents need access to healthy choices and nutrition education. We need healthy choices. Healthy choices. And how do we encourage people to develop businesses around those healthy choices? Nutrition education, exercise programs, Those are humongous things. And one of the things, fundamental things that we have to get into our head is that true health care reform starts in the kitchen, not at the health center. Not at the health center. Remember all those symptoms of the nutritional deficits that you get? Nowadays, when you get those symptoms, you go to the health center and you go in there and you say, do me. And you figure the doctor's doing a good job if he gives you a prescription. If he doesn't give you a prescription, some people actually get upset and they go find another doctor until they get the prescription. And so, over time, a lot of our people get addicted to them, okay? So true healthcare reform starts in the kitchen. So to give a better understanding of our food wisdom, food is our best medicine. Food is our best medicine. Like my grandfather said when anybody was sick, son, you need to avoid disease-causing food. And as our food environment gets worse and worse, and there's more and more chemicals that are put out there, with almost no regulation to them, other than the concern for profit, and that these companies will lobby the government to approve these things, without any kind of long-term study. Okay? And again, you have to go against the grain of modern society. Remember, the Europeans came here. Right behind their armies came the herding and cropping industry. The soil was so rich, the milk was so abundant, the grains were, all you had to do was drop some seeds and you had a wonderful harvest. And the grains become big business. The food industry is the second biggest company, biggest industry, right behind the pharmaceutical industry. So you have these grain industry, and all of a sudden they have to start selling this stuff. One of the markets they moved into was Indian country, and the way they did that was through residential school, where kids went to residential school, and they told them, listen, your food is, and that's why you're sick. That's why you're less than us. You want to be like us. You have to eat our food. And we became addicted to it. And when we were herded into reservations, they gave us prison food. These grains, flour products, that usually generally made people heavy, listless, and less likely to rebel. We improvised and made soul food out of it, bannock and fry bread. And in those early days, back in late 1800s, the flour was actually very nutritious because it wasn't overly processed where there were empty nutrients. All the nutrients were generally still in them, So there was, but nowadays you have to go against the grain of that. You need to eat whole foods, healthy foods, wild foods, You have to go against the grain of our own beliefs. You went to residential school. You were taught porridge, milk, and toast. Porridge, milk, and toast. Canada Food Guide. It's based on eating 7 to 11 servings of bread. I think that's criminal. Flour will raise your blood sugar faster than slapping sugar on your tongue. White flour will raise your blood sugar faster than slapping table sugar on your tongue. Yet they're saying the bottom of Food Guide. Why is that? Because the original Food Guide was developed to support the herding and cropping industry. It was based on what do people have to eat to make them viable, to make their businesses viable. So, but these beliefs were so ingrained into us, and they makes us feel awkward and uncomfortable. And when my daughter was born, we decided not to give her milk, flour, and sugar. You know what was the hardest one for me? Milk. Because you know how you're so blasted in your head that you have to have milk for healthy bones. Well, guess what? You know, the more you study it, the more you find out the truth about that. Mm-hmm. But it also presents us with personal, practical challenges, mainly because changing that lifestyle, it means new habits, new behaviors, you know? And the thing with the food wisdom of our ancestors, it may seem revolutionary, but when you break it down, it's just basic knowledge. And that our ancestors were right in terms of food is our best medicine. That our ancestors were right in terms that our food that the Creator gave us will give us good life. That our ancestors were right in the sense that if we eat this food, it'll give us joy, the joy of living. Mm-hmm. Okay? So food wisdom is very important. Here's an actor, Woody Harrelson, you know, and he's talking about milk. He says, so I started thinking to myself, geez, I've always been told nothing but milk does a body good. It's a fundamental thing. So there it was, like, what else are they lying about? I started realizing there are all these things we are brought up to believe that are a total hoax, just bullshit, advertising, you know. And that is so true, because these companies, they have to sell. They premiate the TV. You know, it's like anything that's on TV, I tell my kids, don't eat. Don't eat. Mm-hmm. But yet, you're going to be, you know, if you teach your kid healthy food and good food, you're going to be facing about 10 to 20,000 advertisements for junk food. That's what you're competing against, you know? So we need to get all this kind of information out to kids as often and as daily as we can. We, the dairy industry, would like to thank you for still believing in the myth that animal milk gives you strong bones. Mm-hmm. You can do better with organic food. Animals in the wild never get fat. Humans in the wilds never get fat. Domesticated dogs, they get fat and disease. Domesticated humans, they get fat and disease. Our sedentary lifestyle is simply not suited to our Stone Age bodies. Hmm? How's your diet going? There's two little birds sitting on a branch, you know, down at each other. And one of the things I should talk about this is that a lot of us want to lose weight. But the way I look at it, and this may not be scientific, but I think it's something that will help you move on it, you know, is that our body, once it starts running short of nutrients, what does it do? It sends out symptoms. The biggest symptom it sends out is cravings. I need something. I need something. So every time we eat, our cells are in distress. They go into a fat storing mode because I'm short. They go into a fat storing mode. But once the cells start getting all the nutrients that they require, they go into a fat releasing mode. Do you understand? The cravings disappear. Then you can change your diet. Once you satisfy those cravings in terms of nutrients, and the cravings go away. When the cravings go away, you can stay on that lifestyle change, healthy eating. You can stay on that lifestyle change of eating the foods that was enjoyed by our ancestors. You know? Whoever snuck the S in fat foods was a clever little bastard. Instead of fat food, it's fast foods. So I'll be closing pretty soon, but before we go, I want you guys to think about one thing, is that all the foods we ate, you know, a lot of people tend to say natives just ate wild meat. No, we didn't. We ate a whole range of different kinds of foods. We did a lot of foraging, you know, berry picking. And each of us we ate all kinds of this food. If you went back in the 1920s and you went into a grocery store, what you would find is that over 50% of the vegetables in there were traditional native food. And if you look at the Italian food as we know it today, it wouldn't be around if it wasn't for traditional native food. Hmm? But you think about all of these things in the sense that this is what we did. In terms of the antioxidant value for a wild blueberry compared to a store-bought blueberries is about 300%. There's magic in that stuff because these berries just don't grow anywhere. They grow where the soil is rich for them, where the nutrients are rich for them. Whereas wild blueberries, you just grow them in the same soil over and over again. Let me give you an example. Spinach. Back in freshly cultivated soil, you could get almost your 400 international units of vitamin E from spinach. One serving. You know what you have to eat today? 33 pounds, one bale, to get the same 400 international units. Why? Because every year people grow the spinach in that soil, and the spinach takes the vitamin E. And every year there's less and less vitamin E in that soil, and there's less vitamin E in that spinach. And now, today, you have to eat one bale to get the equivalent of what you would have gotten back in 1920s on freshly cultivated soil. So our environment has changed. And in that case, when you look at it, foraging is still important. But do we teach that to our kid? I mean, it's nothing wrong in it. It's really very healthy. Go out for a week, camp, pick berries. Harvest the sweetgrass, harvest the roots, Oh, with that, I'll end it this evening, and I'll come back again tomorrow and continue on with these, with my talk. I hope it's been helpful. Have a good evening, and hope we can start looking at food very differently because the magic is there. Okay, take care. Good night. Okay, Cami.